dyslexia, but have you heard of hyperlexia? So hyperlexia is a difficulty where students are very, very, very good at reading the words, but their comprehension does not match, and they may be able to read way, way above their year level, but they actually have very little understanding of the comprehension of the text. So hyperlexia has been known about since about 1967. It's a really rare condition. I couldn't actually even find any statistics on what percentage of students actually even have it, apart from the fact that about 80% of students who have hyperlexia are also autistic. So they also fall on that one. So they get really, really good at learning how to decode, but they don't understand the language behind. So if I think about the simple view of reading, which says that we have to have decoding multiplied by the linguistic understanding to be able to get to reading comprehension, unlike dyslexia where they have difficulties with the decoding, these children with hyperlexia have a huge difficulty with the linguistic component, the language component, which leads to the understanding and being able to comprehend text. So what can you do? Well, some of the research is suggesting that children have difficulties with phonological awareness, although this isn't clear. So that would be good to make sure that you've got phonological awareness nailed and that's sorted. So the PAST test is a really good starting point to check if everything's okay or not, and I'll link to that in the blog post. Then you need to explicitly teach. Like a dyslexic child, you would explicitly teach them how to decode. With a child with hyperlexia, you need to explicitly teach how to get the information from the text. We need to teach them how to visualise, how to make a picture of what you're reading. That's just, we assume that as adults that people do that, and students don't always do that. We need to look at mapping out the story. How does it start? Who's in the story? What happens next? Mapping out the story is really helpful. We will need to teach children how to do sequencing. What came first? What came next? What came after that? They have difficulty understanding cause and effect. So that happened, how did that happen, why did that happen, how are they linked? Asking children to generate and answer questions about the text of their own making is really good when they can do that working with a peer. If you've got a child as well who is autistic, this is a good opportunity to develop that peer social skills at the same time. Sentence level comprehension is important. Do they understand the sentence before we start looking at the paragraph and the whole story? We need to just make sure they understand that. And coming back to that, thinking about vocabulary. So there's 3 tiers of vocabulary. There's the stuff we use every day, there's the stuff that's sort of more specific to that book, and then there's the really technical things that we need to learn. Don't assume that they know that tier 1 vocab. Make sure that that's understood, because we may overlook that in a child with hyperlexia, thinking that that's common language and that surely they understand that, and that may not be the case. With children with autism that may be hyperlexic, we also need to think about theory of mind. They don't think how other people think. So they don't see that, so that will have to be explicitly taught and explicitly explained to a student. One of the things I found was something called anaphoric cueing. Now, I looked at that and I had to go Google, what on earth does this mean? I read a few research reports and I still don't understand what this is. But what it really means is, when you're reading a sentence that said, John did this, then he did that with his whatever. Those John, he and his are all the same person, and we can't assume that a child has put all that together and understood that he, John and his are all the same. And we need to do that with any of those pronouns to make sure that the children understand that they relate to the same person. And it might be that you can highlight those through a text in different colours, which relate to he, which relate to John, which relate to Sophie. And the other thing is you may need to employ the support of a speech pathologist to help you with some of these things. They may not be able to help with all of the aspects, but certainly they may be able to help with that language, that sequencing, and some of those underlying language skills which are stopping the reading comprehension happening. So I hope that gives you a bit of an overview of hyperlexia and how you can help, and feel free to go across and read the blog post.